The city screamed with life, but its heart was bleeding. 19-year-old Riley Carter stood on a rickety park bench, her voice cracking through a megaphone as she shouted to a crowd of weary faces. They can't take our homes, our stories, our soul. Her words hung in the humid Philadelphia air, where the skyline glittered like a promise just out of reach. Riley's short, dark hair clung to her sweat-damp forehead, her hazel eyes fierce with a fire that could burn down the steel towers of the elite. She was a lesbian, unapologetic, and the unlikely leader of a rebellion against a billionaire who wanted to gut her city for profit. Across the park, Nathan Caldwell, the 40-year-old CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, watched from the shadows of an oak tree. His tailored suit was as cold as his reputation, his sharp jaw set in a scowl. He'd come to see the troublemaker delaying his $2 billion redevelopment plan to replace crumbling row houses with luxury condos. Riley's defiance was a thorn in his side, but her passion intrigued him in a way he couldn't admit. Beside Riley stood Alex, her 20-year-old best friend, non-binary and soft-spoken, clutching a stack of flyers that read, "Save our city." Alex's curly hair bounced as they handed out papers, their glasses slipping down their nose. They weren't a fighter like Riley, but their quiet courage anchored her. The crowd, locals, activists, families cheered as Riley's voice rose, but Nathan's presence sent a chill through the air. He was untouchable, or so he thought. Riley had grown up in the narrow streets of South Philly, where every corner held a memory, her first kiss with a girl named Maya behind the deli, her mom's laughter before cancer took her, the mural of hope painted on her block. Now, Caldwell's plan threatened to erase it all. The city had posted eviction notices last week, and Riley's neighborhood was first on the chopping block. She'd seen the glossy brochures promising urban renewal, but she knew the truth. It was displacement dressed up as progress. "We're not just fighting for bricks and mortar," Riley shouted, her voice raw. "We're fighting for us, for every story etched into these streets." The crowd roared, but Nathan's eyes narrowed. He'd built an empire by never losing, and this girl wasn't going to change that. He stepped forward, his polished shoes crunching on gravel, and the crowd parted like a sea. "Miss Carter," Nathan said, his voice smooth as ice, "you're delaying the inevitable. Progress waits for no one." Riley jumped off the bench, her boots hitting the ground with a thud. "Progress? You're tearing down people's lives for profit." Her finger jabbed toward him. "Fearless." Alex tugged at her sleeve, whispering, "Riley, careful's dangerous." But Riley didn't back down. She never did. Nathan smirked, but something in her defiance stirred a memory he'd buried long ago, a time when he wasn't the man who crushed dreams for a bottom line. He'd grown up in a place like this, before wealth numbed him. "You're naive," he said, turning away. "This city will forget you." But Riley's voice followed him. "We'll see who gets forgotten. Caldwell." That night, Riley and Alex sat on the stoop of her row house, the city humming around them. Alex pushed up their glasses, their voice soft. "You really think we can stop him? He's got money, power, everything." Riley leaned back, staring at the stars peeking through the smog. "He's got money, sure, but we've got heart, and that's worth more." Alex smiled faintly, their hand brushing Riley's. It wasn't romantic, never had been, but their bond was deeper than most. They'd met in high school, when Alex was still figuring out who they were, and Riley had been the first to say, "You're enough, just as you are." Now, they were in this fight together, even if Alex's heart raced at the thought of facing someone like Nathan. The next day, Riley organized a march to City Hall. Hundreds joined, waving signs and chanting. Nathan watched from his office window, his fingers tightening around a glass of bourbon. His assistant, A nervous man named Greg hovered nearby. "Sir, the press is eating this up. They're calling her a hero." "Let them," Nathan muttered. "Heroes fall." But his eyes lingered on Riley's figure below, her megaphone a weapon of hope. He didn't know why it unsettled him. Riley's march wasn't just a protest, it was a declaration. She and Alex spent nights planning, printing flyers, and rallying neighbors. The city buzzed with their movement. But Nathan wasn't idle. He pulled strings, meeting with council members and developers, his charm as sharp as his threats. "This project will make Philadelphia a beacon," he told them. "Don't let a teenager derail it." Yet Riley's fire was spreading. Social media exploded with Save Our City, and local news ran stories on her. She was young, queer, and fearless, a symbol of resistance. But Nathan wasn't just fighting her. He was fighting the ghost of his own past. He'd been a kid from a broken home, clawing his way to power. He'd buried that boy long ago, but Riley's passion was digging him up. One evening, Nathan found himself at a community meeting Riley had organized. He didn't know why he came: curiosity, maybe, or something deeper. Riley stood at a podium in a rec center, her voice steady but tired. "This isn't just about houses," she said. "It's about who gets to call this city home." A woman in the crowd stood, her voice trembling. "My kids were born here. Where do we go if they tear it down?" Riley met her eyes, promising to fight. Nathan felt a pang he couldn't name. After the meeting, he approached her. "You're good at this," he said, almost grudgingly. "But you're fighting a losing battle." Riley crossed her arms. "Then why are you here, Caldwell? Feeling guilty?" He froze. For the first time in years, Nathan Caldwell didn't have an answer. The air in the rec center was thick with tension as Nathan walked away, his polished shoes echoing on the worn linoleum. Riley watched him go, her heart pounding with a mix of anger and curiosity. Why had he come? Was he sizing her up? Or was there something human behind those cold blue eyes? Alex tugged at her arm, their voice low. "Riley, you're poking a bear. He could crush us." "He can try," Riley shot back, but her bravado masked a flicker of doubt. Nathan Caldwell wasn't just a manha, was a machine, built on wealth and influence. Still, she couldn't shake the way he'd hesitated when she called him out. Over the next week, the fight intensified. Riley and Alex worked tirelessly, organizing rallies and knocking on doors. Their movement grew, drawing students, artists, and families who saw their city slipping away. But Nathan countered with precision. His company flooded the media with ads touting a new Philadelphia, painting Riley as a reckless idealist. Billboards rose overnight, showing gleaming condos with smiling families, none of whom looked like the people Riley knew. One morning, Riley found a letter slipped under her door. It was on Caldwell Enterprises' letterhead, offering her a community liaison job with a six-figure salary. The note was simple: "Join us and shape the future." Riley laughed bitterly, crumpling it. "He thinks he can buy me," she told Alex, tossing the paper into a trash can. Alex frowned, adjusting their glasses. "What if he's serious? You could change things from the inside." Riley shook her head. "He doesn't want change. He wants control." But the offer gnawed at her. What if she could make a difference? She pushed the thought away, focusing on the next rally. Nathan, meanwhile, was unraveling in ways he hadn't expected. In his penthouse office, he stared at a photo from his childhood, a faded Polaroid of him and his mother in a Philly row house, before she lost everything to addiction and debt. He'd clawed his way out of that life, vowing never to be powerless again. But Riley's fight was forcing him to remember the boy who'd once believed in something bigger than profit. He called a meeting with his board, his voice sharp. Double the PR budget. I want her discredited. But even as he spoke, he felt hollow. Greg, his assistant, hesitated before leaving. Sir, maybe, talk to her. She's not what you think. Nathan waved him off, but Greg's words lingered. That night, he found himself at another of Riley's events, this time a candlelight vigil for displaced families. The park glowed with hundreds of candles, each held by someone whose life Nathan's plan would upend. Riley stood at the center, her voice soft but piercing. We're not just fighting for our homes. We're fighting for each other. Nathan stayed at the edge, unseen, but a woman beside him recognized his face from the news. You're the one doing this. She spat, her voice thick with pain. You're tearing us apart. He wanted to argue, to say it was business, not personal. But the words stuck in his throat. For the first time, he saw the faces behind the number smothers. Kids, elders, and Riley, always Riley, leading them with a fire he'd lost long ago. The next day, Riley got a tip from a City Hall insider. Nathan was pushing for an emergency vote to fast-track evictions. She and Alex scrambled to organize a protest outside the council meeting. The air crackled with tension as hundreds gathered, chanting, "Our city, our home." Riley climbed onto a makeshift stage, her megaphone shaking in her hands. They think they can silence us, she shouted. But we're louder than their money. Nathan was inside, lobbying council members with promises of jobs and revenue. But as Riley's voice echoed through the walls, he faltered. One councilwoman, a gray-haired woman named Ms. Torres, leaned forward. Mr. Caldwell, have you listened to that girl out there? She's fighting for something you've forgotten. He bristled. I'm building a future. Ms. Torres raised an eyebrow. For who? Outside, Riley spotted Nathan through a window. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the world fell silent. She saw something in him, doubt, maybe, or pain. It threw her off, but she didn't have time to dwell. The council vote was hours away, and her city was on the line. That night, Alex sat with Riley in a diner, their coffee growing cold. What if we lose? Alex asked, their voice barely a whisper. Riley reached across the table, squeezing their hand. Then we go down swinging. Together. Alex nodded, their eyes shining with trust. But Riley's mind was on Nathan. She didn't know why, but she sensed he was more than a villain. There was a crack in his armor, and she was determined to break through. The council chamber buzzed with tension as Riley slipped inside, her boots silent on the polished floor. She wasn't supposed to be here. Protesters were barred, but she'd charmed a janitor into letting her in. Her heart raced as she crouched behind a row of seats, watching Nathan present his plan to the council. His voice was smooth, confident, promising a revitalized Philadelphia. But Riley saw the truth in the council members' eyes. Some were bought, others afraid. Outside, Alex led the chant, their voice stronger than ever through the megaphone. No homes, no peace. The crowd's roar seeped through the walls, and Riley felt a surge of pride. Alex was stepping up, finding their courage. She clutched a folder of evidence documents proving Caldwell's plan would displace thousands with no relocation support. If she could get it to Ms. Torres, it might sway the vote. Nathan's presentation ended to polite applause. He glanced toward the back of the room, and for a split second, his eyes met Riley's. Her breath caught had he seen her. He turned away, but his jaw tightened. Riley moved fast, slipping the folder to Ms. Torres under the guise of passing a water bottle. The councilwoman's eyes widened as she skimmed the pages, then nodded subtly. The vote was called, and Riley held her breath. One by one, Council members raised their hands. It was close, too close. When Ms. Torres voted against the plan, citing community concerns, a murmur rippled through the room. The final tally, 8-7 against. Nathan's face was stone, but his hands clenched into fists. Riley slipped out before security could spot her, rejoining Alex in the chaotic crowd outside. We did it. Alex hugged her, their glasses fogging with emotion. But Riley's eyes were on the building, where Nathan stood at the entrance, watching her. She expected rage, but his expression was unreadable, almost haunted. The victory was short-lived. The next morning, Nathan announced a new strategy, a public-private partnership to address community concerns. It was a slick move, designed to win over skeptics while pushing the same agenda. Riley saw through it, but the city was divided. Some neighbors, desperate for jobs, started to waver. We're losing them, Alex said, their voice heavy as they sorted flyers in Riley's living room. People are tired. Riley. They're starting to believe him. Riley paced, her mind racing. Then we go bigger. We hit him where it hurts his image. She proposed a viral campaign, exposing Nathan's past deals that had displaced communities in other cities. Alex hesitated. That's personal. Are you sure? He made it personal when he targeted our home. Riley snapped, but her voice softened. I know you're scared. Alex. I am too. But we can't stop now. They spent days digging into Nathan's history, with help from a hacker friend, Jamie. They uncovered records of shady deals in Chicago and Detroit, families pushed out, promises broken. Riley posted the findings online, tagging news outlets and using Save Our City. The response was explosive. Protests swelled, and Nathan's polished image began to crack. Nathan, meanwhile, was spiraling. He sat in his office, staring at the social media storm. His phone buzzed with calls from investors, furious about the bad press. Greg, his assistant, hovered nervously. Sir, maybe it's time to negotiate with her. She's not going away. Negotiate. Nathan laughed bitterly. She's a kid with a megaphone. But he couldn't ignore the truth. Riley was winning. And worse, she was making him question himself. He remembered his mother's eviction, the way she'd cried as they lost their home. He'd vowed to never feel that powerless again. But at what cost? He decided to confront Riley directly. He found her at a community garden, planting flowers with kids from the neighborhood. Her laughter, bright and unguarded, hit him like a punch. He approached, and the kids scattered. Riley stood, wiping dirt from her hands. Come to bribe me again. No, Nathan said, his voice low. I came to talk. Riley crossed her arms. Then talk. He hesitated, searching for words. I grew up like you. In a place like this. I fought to get out, to build something better. Better for who? Riley shot back. You're not saving this city. You're erasing it. Her words cut deeper than he expected. For the first time, Nathan didn't have a comeback. He left without another word, but Riley's voice echoed in his mind. She was right and he hated it. The city was a battlefield now, not of fists but of wills. Riley's campaign had lit a fire, but Nathan wasn't done. He launched a counteroffensive, hosting a glitzy town hall to sell his revised plan, complete with promises of affordable housing and jobs. The crowd was skeptical, but his charm was a weapon, and some began to sway. Riley watched the live stream from her bedroom, her stomach twisting. He's lying through his teeth, she muttered. Alex, sprawled on her bed, nodded. Yeah, but he's good at it. People want hope, even if it's fake. We need something bigger, Riley said, slamming her laptop shut. something he can't spin. She decided to organize a city-wide art installation murals, poems, and stories painted on the very buildings Nathan wanted to demolish. It would show the city's soul, unerasable. Alex was skeptical but helped anyway, rallying artists and neighbors. Over a weekend, South Philly transformed. Walls bloomed with color, a mural of a mother and child, a poem about resilience, a portrait of Riley herself, her fist raised. The hashtag Soul of the City trended, and news crews swarmed. Nathan drove through the neighborhood, his jaw tight as he saw the art. One mural stopped him cold, a depiction of a boy in a tattered jacket, staring at a crumbling row house. It was too familiar. He pulled over, his hands trembling. That boy was him, or could have been. He found Riley at the mural site, spray paint on her hands. "You're relentless," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "You're one to talk," Riley replied, wiping her brow. "Why do you keep fighting us? You could walk away." Nathan's eyes darkened. "I don't walk away from anything." But his voice lacked conviction. He turned to leave, then paused. "You remind me of someone I used to know." "Who?" Riley asked, curious despite herself. He didn't answer, just walked away. Riley stared after him, confused. She didn't know his story, but she sensed pain behind his armor. The art installation was a hit, but Nathan's next move was brutal. He filed lawsuits against the city, claiming the council's vote was improperly influenced. The legal pressure scared some residents into silence, and Riley felt the tide turning. She and Alex worked late into the night, strategizing. "I'm tired, Riley," Alex admitted, their voice small. "What if we're just delaying the inevitable?" Riley knelt beside them, her eyes fierce. "You're my rock, Alex. We're not done yet." Alex smiled weakly, their hands squeezing hers. Their bond, forged in years of shared struggles, held them together. Alex had come out as non-binary in a world that didn't always understand, and Riley had been their fiercest ally. Now, they were Riley's strength. The next day, Riley got a call from MS. Torres. Caldwell's offering a compromise, some low-income units in his plan. It's not enough, but it's splitting the council. Riley's heart sank. A compromise would save face for Nathan, but leave thousands displaced. She needed a new plan. Fast. She decided to confront Nathan publicly, at his own event. It was risky, but she was out of options. She and Alex crashed Nathan's next town hall, blending into the crowd. When Nathan opened the floor for questions, Riley stood, her voice cutting through the room. "Mr. Caldwell, how do you sleep at night, knowing you're destroying lives for profit?" The room went silent. Nathan's smile faltered, but he recovered. "I'm building opportunity. Miss Carter. You'd understand if you saw the bigger picture." "Then show me," Riley challenged. "Meet me on my turf. See what you're tearing down." The crowd murmured, and Nathan's eyes locked on hers. He could have dismissed her, but something, curiosity, guilt, or both, made him nod. "Fine. Tomorrow. Name the place." Riley grinned, a spark of hope igniting. She'd show him the city's heart and maybe, just maybe, find his. The morning sun bathed South Philly in gold as Riley led Nathan through her neighborhood. Alex trailed behind, their camera ready to document everything. Riley had chosen this walk deliberately. Every step was a story, every corner a memory. She wanted Nathan to see what he was destroying. They stopped at a corner store, its windows plastered with flyers for community events. "This is where my mom used to buy me ice cream," Riley said, her voice steady but soft. "She's gone now. But this place, it's her." Nathan's face was unreadable, but his eyes lingered on the faded sign above the door. "Nostalgia doesn't pay bills," he said, but his tone lacked its usual edge. Riley led him to a playground where kids laughed, their voices echoing off graffiti-covered walls. "These kids deserve a home, not a condo they'll never afford," she said. Alex snapped photos, capturing Nathan's stiff posture against the vibrant chaos. At a community center, elders played chess, their laughter warm. Riley pointed to a mural of a tree, its branches sprawling. "That's us rooted, connected. You can't replace that with glass towers." Nathan's jaw tightened. "You think I don't get it? I grew up in a place like this. It didn't save me. Then why destroy it for others?" Riley pressed. He didn't answer, but his silence spoke volumes. Alex caught his expression a flicker of doubt and whispered to Riley, "I think he's listening." The walk ended at Riley's row house, where a Save Our City banner hung. She invited him inside, a bold move. Nathan hesitated but followed. The living room was small, cluttered with photos and memories. A picture of Riley and her mom sat on the mantel. Nathan stared at it, his expression softening. "My mom lost everything," he said suddenly. "Eviction, debt. I swore I'd never be that vulnerable again." Riley softened too. "That's why you fight so hard. But you're taking that from others." Nathan looked away, his hands in his pockets. "It's not personal." "It is to us," Riley said. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. Riley's words haunted him, as did the faces of her neighborhood. He'd built walls around his heart, but she was tearing them down. He called Greg, his voice rough. "Set up a meeting with her. No cameras, no stunts. Just us." Riley agreed to meet at a quiet cafe. Alex wanted to come, but she insisted on going alone. "I need to know who he really is," she told them. Nathan was already there. No suit, just a sweater and jeans. He looked almost human. "I'm pausing the project," he said without preamble. "Not canceling, just pausing." Riley's eyes widened. "Why?" "You made me see it," he admitted. "The people. The cost. I don't know if I can change, but I'm trying." She studied him, searching for a trick. But his eyes were raw, unguarded. "This isn't over," she said. "But it's a start." They talked for hours, not as enemies, but as two people shaped by loss. Nathan shared fragments of his past, his mother's struggles, his climb to power. Riley spoke of her mom, her identity, her fight for home. For the first time, they saw each other. When Riley told Alex, they were skeptical. "You trust him?" "Not yet," Riley said. "But I think he's human. And that's something." The pause gave Riley's movement breathing room. She and Alex doubled down, organizing more events to keep the pressure on. But Nathan's change of heart was fragile, and Riley knew it. The city was still at stake, and trust was a risk she wasn't sure she could take. The city held its breath as Nathan's pause stretched into weeks. Riley and Alex kept the pressure on, their movement gaining momentum. Protests became celebrations, with music and art filling the streets. But Riley couldn't shake the feeling that Nathan's change was temporary. She was right. Caldwell Enterprises' board was furious, demanding the project resume. Nathan faced them in a tense meeting, his voice firm. "We need a new approach, one that doesn't destroy communities." The board scoffed. "You're going soft, Caldwell," one said. "That girl's got you spooked." Nathan's temper flared, but he held it in check. He was changing, but the board wasn't. They voted to override his pause, pushing for a new council vote. Nathan left the meeting shaken, realizing he might lose control of his own company. He reached out to Riley, meeting her at the park where it all began. "They're moving forward," he said, his voice heavy. I tried to stop it. Riley's heart sank, but she saw the truth in his eyes. "Then help us fight," she said. "You know what's at stake." Nathan hesitated. Joining Riley meant betraying his empire, everything he'd built. But her fire, her belief, was pulling him towards something he'd forgotten: purpose. "I'll try," he said finally. "But I need time." Riley nodded, but time was running out. The new council vote was days away, and the city was fracturing. Some residents, lured by Nathan's earlier promises, turned against Riley's movement. "We need jobs," one man shouted at a rally. "You're just causing trouble." Alex pulled Riley aside, their voice trembling. "We're losing them. What do we do?" Riley's eyes burned with determination. "We remind them who we are." She planned a final stand-a-massive rally at City Hall, with every voice in the city invited. She asked Nathan to speak, to show he'd changed. He agreed, a decision that could cost him everything. The rally was electric. Thousands gathered, their signs a sea of color. Riley took the stage, her voice raw but powerful. "This is our home. We fight for it. Together." Alex stood beside her, their hands steady as they held a microphone, finally finding their voice. When Nathan stepped up, the crowd booed. He raised a hand, his voice steady. "I was wrong. This city isn't a commodity, it's a community. I'm with you." The crowd went silent, then erupted in cheers. Riley met his eyes, a spark of trust forming. But the board wasn't done. They leaked a story to the press, painting Nathan as unstable and Riley as a manipulator. The headlines hit hard, sowing doubt. Riley and Nathan met that night, both exhausted. "They're trying to bury us," she said. "Then we dig ourselves out," Nathan replied. For the first time, they were allies, not enemies. Alex, meanwhile, was grappling with their own fears. The spotlight was intense, and they weren't used to it. "I don't know if I'm cut out for this," they told Riley, their voice breaking. "You're stronger than you know," Riley said, pulling them into a hug. "We're in this together." The council vote loomed, and Riley knew it was their last chance. She and Nathan worked side by side, gathering evidence and rallying support. Their connection deepened, not romantic, but humanist shared fight for something bigger than themselves. The night before the vote, Riley stood on her stoop, staring at the city. Nathan joined her, his presence no longer cold. "Whatever happens," he said, "you made me remember who I was." Riley smiled, her heart full. Maybe we're both finding ourselves. The morning of the council vote dawned gray and heavy, mirroring the city's mood. Riley stood outside City Hall, her breath visible in the chilly air. Alex was beside her, their hands stuffed in their jacket, trying to hide their nerves. The crowd was massive, spilling into the streets, their chants a heartbeat for Philadelphia. Nathan stood with them, an unlikely ally, his presence drawing stares and whispers. Inside, the council chamber was a battleground. Ms. Torres led the opposition, armed with Riley's evidence and Nathan's testimony. He'd spent days preparing, digging into his own company's records to expose the board's manipulations. It was a risk could lose everything, but he was done being their pawn. Riley watched from the gallery, her heart pounding. Nathan spoke first, his voice steady. "I've made mistakes," he admitted. "But this city deserves better. Listen to its people." The council murmured, some nodding, others skeptical. Ms. Torres followed, presenting the evidence, falsified reports, ignored community impact studies. "This isn't progress," she said. "It's greed." Outside, Alex led the crowd in a chant, their voice stronger than ever. Riley squeezed their hand, proud. They'd come so far, from a shy kid to a leader. The vote began. Each yes or no, a hammer to Riley's heart. It was tied at 7-7 when the final council member, a quiet man named Mr. Evans, paused. "I've heard the people," he said. "No." The room erupted. Riley hugged Alex, tears streaming down her face. They'd won for now. Nathan met her eyes across the room, a faint smile breaking through his usual stoicism. But the victory came at a cost. Nathan's board ousted him that afternoon, stripping him of his title. He walked out of Caldwell Enterprises with nothing but a box of personal items, including that old Polaroid of him and his mom. For the first time in years, he felt free. Riley found him at the park, sitting on the same bench where she'd first rallied the crowd. "You okay?" she asked, sitting beside him. He shrugged. "I lost my company, but I gained something else." "What's that?" He looked at her, his eyes softer than she'd ever seen. "A reason to care." Riley smiled, her heart swelling. They weren't friends. Not exactly. But they'd changed each other. She'd shown him the city's soul, and he'd helped save it. That night, Riley and Alex celebrated with the community. The rec center was packed, music blaring, kids dancing. Alex took the mic, their voice steady. "We did this together. And we're not done." Riley cheered, her eyes on the crowd. She thought of her mom, of Maya, of every moment that had led her here. She was still a young queer girl from South Philly, but she was also a Versailles spark that had ignited a city. Nathan watched from the back, a stranger in a place he now understood. He'd lost his empire, but he'd found something better, redemption. He slipped out quietly, leaving Riley and Alex to their victory. The city wasn't safe, yet developers would come again, with new plans and promises. But Riley was ready. She'd fight, always, for her home and her people. And maybe, just maybe, she'd shown Nathan how to fight for something too. Months passed, and Philadelphia buzzed with new energy. Riley's movement had sparked a citywide push for affordable housing, with Ms. Torres leading a task force to protect neighborhoods. The murals stayed, a testament to the fight. Riley and Alex were at the heart of it, organizing workshops and rallies, their bond unbreakable. Nathan, no longer a CEO, started over. He opened a small nonprofit, funding community projects with what remained of his wealth. He worked quietly, no longer chasing power. Sometimes, he'd see Riley at events, their eyes meeting with a silent understanding. They'd never be close, but they'd changed each other's lives. One evening, Riley stood on her stoop, watching kids play in the street. Alex joined her, their glasses reflecting the sunset. "We did good, didn't we?" they said. Riley grinned, slinging an arm around them. "We're just getting started." The city was theirs, not because they owned it, but because they loved it. Riley had fought for its soul and won not just for her, but for everyone who called it home. And in the process, she'd helped a lost man find his way back. The stars emerged, bright against the smog. Riley looked up, her heart full. She was home, and it was enough.